Welcome to the Scarrett Bennett Center. Greetings everyone here in person and everyone joining us online. As you get logged in, as you virtually walk on in or physically walk on in the room, we just want to welcome you to our campus here at Scarrett Bennett. We are live from the Harambe Auditorium on our campus and blessed to have with us our poet for the hour. Dana Malone comes to us as an active poet in the Middle Tennessee writers community since 1993. Her current book is Mother, Grave, Ghost, published by Finishing Line Press in late 2022. That means she was active even beyond and through the COVID of things. And so we are blessed to have and be gifted and graced with some of those words today, I believe, as well. And with that, I just want to thank you all for coming, for being a part of this occasion. We do this every month on the fourth Thursday of the month here on campus, not always in this room, probably more often than not. So do check out the signs on campus if you decide to come in person. And honestly, this and any occasion is always at its best when you come in person. There is just nothing like, when you can, being in the room. I know that Dana is actually going to share some things about herself and her content here or there as she presents today. So I'm going to invite her to share about herself as she comes forward. Thank you again. And if I didn't already say, my name is Linda Furtado. I'm Director of Spirituality and Arts here at the Scarrett Bennett Center. My mind is all over the place. And I appreciate your grace and your patience as we get started. Dana, I'm going to invite you to come on up, my dear. And while she's coming up, because it takes a moment to walk and folks online can't see what's going on, I'll just kind of chat for a half a second. And here is Dana. Welcome.
Hi, thank you, Linda. I found out I'm all about figuring out how we can be connected, and I realized that in the Methodist Church of our area, there's a lot of connections with Linda and her husband, and some of the people from West End and who worked in civil rights, that kind of thing that I've been pleasured to know too. And she's also the cousin of Aisha Moon that many people know as Camilla Aisha Moon, and was a dear friend and left this world suddenly and too soon in the past couple of years. So I honor her impact on my life as a friend and as a poet. It's Michael, thank you too for your service and for all of you being here. Poets Corner has been on the calendar in this community for a number of years, and I'm just honored to have put my name on the list. And I also, I guess connection-wise, when I first moved to Nashville in 1990, I lived at 18th and Horton, so just a block from here. So that building has been long destroyed, but I think Vanderbilt has taken it over. Hi, Leslie. So, and hello to everyone online. I think my dad's watching. That's pretty special that he tolerates his wild child's artistic license. But it does feel like coming home. I don't have that building, but I have this place a block away. I want to start tonight with a poem that was in a publication called Backyards and Boulevards, Words from the Neighborhoods of Nashville. It was a project for National Poetry Month in 2018, and the Porch Writers Collective, in cooperation with the Poetry Society of America, produced this book, and the prompt was in my backyard. And so this poem on the page looks as if it's a bus traveling. And I guess Nashville Connectors would be what I would call it if I had to oversell it again, but this is the title, which is also the route that this bus is taking. Buena Vista Heights, Jefferson Street, Music Row, Nolensville Pike, East Nashville, all Nashville. In my backyard, children squeal at recess, braided hair, pleated skirts, snap fresh khakis. Before I go out, shower with water through underground pipes laid by slaves. Bobby in the apartment above me, teaching granddaughter what Feliz Navidad means. And next door, Sonny, the drag king, keyboard singing. Then Ed Temple Boulevard to Tennessee State, where Olympic champions may do by running through halls, turning school desks into hurdles, around the bend to Jefferson Street, passing all that jazz that used to waft from New Era clubs, now history, then #1 banners on Music Row, then basements and 5 spots east, then past the home of truemusic.org, toward and down the long streets of language. Hello in Spanish, Kurdish, Arabic, dozens of others on the paths of poetry and moving billboards. Everywhere I go, a beautiful view or something that was or wants to still be on these back roads, corridors, arteries, all of it, something about us, all of us rounding for home. Coach saying everywhere, as he says on the third base line in my backyard, keep going, keep going, keep going. This is another poem about place. This time, my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina, which is in the southern Appalachias. And I'm sure I'm not alone. My family is not alone in a recent selling of the family home, but that is something that happened, and it was cause to reflect. By way of talking a little bit about the way I work in form, which is I hardly ever do, except I used forms that I've been learned as a musician in piano. So Bach and his hymn, which is the standard, meter for the hymns that I grew up with, is tight and intricate and has a certain number of syllables per line. For this one, it's a prose poem that I wrote about this experience of Dad selling our home, and it's called "On the Banks I Stand and Cast a Wishful Eye." I'm losing my voice, but the way I got the form was, phrasing marks in an organ piece based on Jordan's "Stormy Banks I Stand." There was basically one arc for the whole entire first verse. So, on Jordan's stormy banks I stand and cast a wishful eye. And then it keeps going through da da da. And I took a breath, but it was kind of circular. So that's what I was embodying as I kind of wrote about something that was a little bit difficult. On the banks I stand and cast a wishful eye. It's hard to let a house go. Red brick, black shutters, mortar deep with 55 years of memory. And the yard, I carry poems all over this 2/3 of acre, walked over hickory nuts, toughened my feet along the slope, and in the lower half, swing set where my sister and I sang, "Julie, Julie, Julie, do you love me?" Imaginary dates with Bobby Sherman and David Cassidy awaiting in the bonus room. We took turns. We did fight over Bobby Sherman, but thank goodness for David Cassidy. The Ivy Embankment we never went into. All we knew, what we left alone. Picnic table on the concrete patio before Daddy cemented the goalpost. We practiced our free throws, bright orange lines faded by Wilson balls, white blackboard greened with the moss of how we usually won the league championship. And I will insert in here the fact that if you want to discuss the importance of free throws in key games. You can talk with Pam and I. We have our color analysis about that, which is essentially you ought not to miss a free throw. Here's a 1970 snapshot for Daddy's Company newsletter. Sister and I with Duke, the basset hound, at our feet, tricolor and loaf, low to the ground, long floppy ears. It's up to you girls to take care of him. For the photo, granny dresses Mom made us before paisley rows of flowers on cream backgrounds ran parallel with lines of color like the braided den rugs, mum yellow, burnt orange, brown, little red bud, green stem, flounce, and baby doll sleeves. The day the honeybees got under the long skirt and stung themselves out. How irises attract vases and bumbles, what we let near, what we think is safe and isn't. Soil, loam, maple-gloried roads, past the unfenced property, the foothills land that makes us home. I peeled layers of opacity, mica, morning glories, school day cycles, mud pies and easy bake ovens, the day I harvested fallen acorns to top the pretend dessert. Same tricolor, almost picked up by mistake. Dad pulled out of a rare, deep Saturday nap, stabs the copperhead, tosses it back where it came from, 8 feet deep, and y'all, don't go in there. Never ever go, yet autumn's up for sale. Pandemic, not grave death, reversed the mortgage. Dad gave in to lonely. The creek only rose high enough to seep into the basement once that I can remember. Maybe concrete absorbs. We know it doesn't quite prevent. We speak of the house in past tense. Daddy speaks of himself in third person. Your daddy can't go like he used to. I call him every day because many a day he makes it to exercise at the senior action, walks his 2 miles, reads books to school children, what have you. He's 85. We moved into our home that is now not ours before my 4th birthday party in a finished, unfurnished basement. My September clock has stopped at the witching hour, but grandmother heirlooms on the quarter hour. Wrought iron custom work, 2 brick fireplaces. Why do people paint them alabaster now? Batten board and marble them? I don't know. I intended this poem to be about snapping green beans on the back patio on Saturdays, how the wooden baskets smelled, what my father taught me about food before the days of basketball hoops. Buckets of hand-picked local, full Coca-Colas with peanuts in green bottles beside us. How many of you'ns put peanuts in your Coca-Colas? Anybody? Okay. Just nobody from outside the South. Jim and I were talking about, the things that we put in our bodies as kids. We're still here. This next little poem was rode around on a Metro WeGo bus for the month of April in 2019. Most awesome publication I'd say ever is to be on a Metro bus riding around town, and they also paired my poem with artwork, and it was on Charlotte Avenue across Daddy's must-eat place. Hattie B's on Charlotte. So this is what the bus shelter said. So the theme, the prompt was how I got here. This is my response. Got here in pouring rain and a wobble, cleft curve of melody, dropped off in the gulch, bluegrass, my only neighbor. And I lived in the gulch before all that other stuff was just basically me and the station inn. Good times. This next poem, I write a lot about produce and flowers, and I don't really know what I'm talking about, but when you do a haiku, you don't have to know a whole lot of something. So this won a prize at the Tomato Art Fest in 2021. I don't know why they picked this one. I'll clap for something else, but that's okay. Tomato Haiku 2021. Christmas in August. Red Romas tinsel the vines. Let's deck the salads. And here's another one that did not get selected, but probably would have taken the prize in my hometown of Greenville, South Carolina. It says, where I'm from, you hold Maters, Sammys together with Dukes. Here, your choice. Miss Duke, not the Duke of the Buchanan Dukes who founded Duke University and had a lot of money from Duke Energy. This is little Eugenia Duke. She's just this unassuming woman who came to my hometown and invented this mayonnaise and made sandwiches that she sold for 10 cents and got 2 cents profit on it. So, here, I don't know that they serve anything but Duke's mayonnaise in Greenville. I didn't know that such a thing existed. But I'm telling you, you got to use it. None of this Miracle Whip, Scott Lucas. This next poem I'll read, it's real special to me because I wrote it for someone who's like family to me, my friend Stephanie. You know Stephanie. I know Scott's sister-in-law. And there was a call for poems, stories, essays related to the impact of the 2020 Nashville tornadoes and the pandemic on our community. And I went to Stephanie's, so she is the sister of Scott's wife, Johanna, who's a sister to me. And so I went the week after the tornado. I listened to what she said. I actually captured some videos. I took videos and pictures of everything around her East Nashville home. And I wanted to write something for her. And then the contest, this call for entries, kind of stepped that up. But I carried those images and words, I embodied it and carried it around with me until, 30 days before I needed to submit it. And this is what became of it. And I will say, because it looks on the page like a tornado. And I'll also let you know that it refers to the words want and want, so W-O-N-T and W-A-N-T. And later in the poem, the word raised is used, R-A-Z-E-D, and it's paired with the word R-A-I-S-E. Reclamations, the Book of Stephanie. I was just fine as apocryphal text, wedged between want and want, amidst old and a sense of what's next, not anew. Violent spin of EF3, twist of bonus room to nightmare, bedroom addition collapsed on my son. Despite the riddle of bricks, his frame and muscles okay, psychotherapy not indicated yet. These are the days of uproot. March 2020 tart blue. I navigate live wires in upright oaks. Psychological shocks, not so much. And what of the blind dog that I was mindful of him? Poor old man, I threw him in the basement to save his life. Small miracle. He didn't have to experience such sudden darkness. After 160 mile-an-hour winds, we hope for a calmer 2021, filled with scribbles on felt finished pages, hours and double chases, visitors, a little whimsy, a lot of Pass a hallelujah to the neighbors, their hustle and kindness, grills and Sammys. Praises be for unspeakable gifts, the palates of pure life. So much cleared away quickly. I noticed the gnomes, upright and smiling. Pink blossoms pop on twigs in the rubble. Cherry tree I'd forgotten. I bundle a bouquet for my sister. She holds me. We sigh beside a raised home, older than both of us. Now we raise. My sister heads home, away from the river to rest. Man in utility truck flips her off. Unflappable, she supposed that's the thing he needed to say on such a birdless day as this. I want to come home to a made-up bed, intact bedroom, oh, how and how. I beg to be nothing but routine, welcome errand, drive my 16-year-old son to practice twice a week. Let him be youth, be rhythm for ensemble, my tall jazz drummer. Safe in the pocket of a tasket, some Thelonious Monk, all the feel-good grooves. Pod on the lawn for weeks with our musical instruments, mattresses from the unfazed bedroom. Upon move-in, we find the pianos tunable, our lives reclaimed, not repurposed. From demolished rafters and accent wall, all things made new as possible, the dining room's my favorite. The tongue and groove perpetual, I sing, will understand it better by and by. Struggle for the words to say, I lost my livelihood too. Cry question marks a few hours every day, crawl rejoicing to everything that's not necessarily nice. Hear me, city, with your 6 o'clock songs, 8 o'clock howls, closed businesses, shuttered security, bombs and aftershocks. We'll take our empty holes, nails sticking out and bent, turn destruction into Americana orchestra, be tambourine and fringe, ukulele, mandolin, the basement east, Acme and 5-spot, Fanny's House of Music, Delgado guitars, name everything proper. From what remains and yet is yet to come, let's pause before we sand and plane, before polishing only the sides we deem worthy. Let's grant grace to withstand discard, solitary doubt, call our wreckage collective, like worn wood collected and as is, call us all of character. So that was for Stephanie and for all of us, right? I'd like to thank Sean, my stepson, who's a specialty carpenter. I follow him on @PorterCarpentry to just see how much more creative than he is than I'll ever be. But thank you. You're the only research that I had to reach out to about what's the difference between reclaimed and repurposed. I'll take this time also to say that Daddy told me to remember that the mind can only absorb what the fanny can tolerate. So if you start feeling intolerant, feel free to move about the cabin. It's not going to bother me. So, okay, do I get my allowance for that, Dad? I hope so. He says, well, here's some green beans. This is a found poem. A found poem is to take languages that exist and claim it as a poem. So this was the writing on the package of a set of pillow shams I just ordered, verbatim. Warning to avoid danger of suffocation. The world belongs to all of us. We must protect it. Keep away from babies and children. Do not use in cribs, playpens, carriages, or beds. Use it as long as you like. However, when it is no longer of use, dispose of it in a refuse container. Do not leave it in the countryside of the sea. Do not leave it in the countryside of the sea. Clapping for somebody else's work. I got totally scarfed. There is. I also perform in, like poetry in the Brew or something like that. There's a commercial I read of this woman, or it's Judge Julie, and she does this Coloplast is the name of the product, but I just basically read her script, which is a trip because she delivers her lines in a tricky way. So back to my roots in Appalachia. This poem was part of the Women of Appalachia project last year. Thank you for all of you here who supported that. It's called The Only North I Ever Knew, and a couple of things. First is that I thought the world ended at the top of Mount Mitchell, which is not far from where I grew up, and it's the highest peak in the eastern United States. So there's that. It also references serpentine, and serpentine is a mineral that is found all along the Appalachian chain that corresponds with the same mineral that exists up the chain in Britain into Scotland, and probably the same for when the plates shift, would have been part of Africa that feeds into Alabama. I'm not sure. Leslie would probably know, but I do know that when they split, my people who came over from the British Isles, were gravitated towards that. And I do believe there's something to that. The writer Sharon McCrum talks a lot about that. So you can Google serpentine, Sharon McCrum, get more information. But the interesting thing maybe about how this poem came to be is that I wrote it on my legs driving. I was in Pisgah, North Carolina, and I was going to the Fresh Market in Hendersonville, and the road was very windy, no shoulder. And I started seeing these names of things, images, and luckily I reached down and there was a pen, so I just started writing what I saw in these phrases on my legs. It was June or July, and I wrote on both of my thighs all the way to the Fresh Market. And to be my mother's daughter, I took photos of it, wiped myself off, went to the Fresh Market and did the same thing on the way home. Robin, you've never done that. Robin's my friend Robin, she's so dignified. This is called The Only North I Ever Knew. Remember, sings the Blue Ridge Mountain Pass. The mountain pass says, write it on yourself. Your lily legs, the only paper, stencil of Boaz. Be not afraid, repeats the mountain pass. This Canoga road you drive will wind you into what to say. Berea, Berea, breathes the Blue Ridge Mountain Pass. Oh, your soul and all within you. The mountain pass sings, your memory swims the French broad currents where you cast your burdens. Mount Mitchell, my crown, proclaims the mountain pass, peak of your Appalachia. All my water, over each of my rocks, the sweetest song. I offer you my Pisgah forest, utters the mountain pass, Camelot with fern carpet, crackle of Christ on the AM dial. A local quartet intones 4-part harmony, and how could heaven be any higher? Embedded in these slopes of your salvation, cries the Blue Ridge Mountain Pass, are these minerals of your distant kin. Serpentine, said the mountain pass, this ink of you, and how could heaven be any higher? Thank you. So there was an AM, they play this song called Beyond the Sunset, which is totally depressing to me, but there was a Christian gospel station atop of Mount Mitchell. Some of you, I don't know, you may have listened to it growing up, but anyway, that's, again, if there was anything divine crackling off from heaven. It was that radio station in Mount Mitchell. I'm going to read a few selections from my latest book, Mother Grave Ghost. I collaborated with Sean, a family member who's like a stepdaughter to me. And so their mom is present in this book, and mine is. Lauren lost her mom when she was 8. I think Sean was 12 or 13. Yeah. And so the perspective of that sudden loss and the little period of time after that, and what lingers from a child's voice and from mine losing my mom when I was 50. We got the title of the book I got it from a lecture that Ocean Vuong gave, the Vietnamese poet and novelist, gave at Vanderbilt. He was talking about how the language he grew up speaking was nuanced, and that the word ma in Vietnamese, depending on where the accent falls, can either mean mother, grave, or ghost. So I found that fitting. So I will read the first 2 poems in the book and then go from there. The first is Lauren's. It's called 3 Summers Before It Happened. In the backyard of our little house on Harrison Street, a tire swing sits next to a frayed oak, under which the patch of dirt reminds the ground that before the children's feet there was grass. The yard is not large. It's laced with a metal gate, and within a vegetable garden, storage shed, and back porch with 4 blurry glass chairs, a table, and a grill for steaks and corn on the cob on summer nights when lightning bugs and children roam where they please. Summer days, porch steps are promises, and cicadas are symphonies. As a season, as a whole world keeps moving, and we safe in it. Spoonfuls of peanut butter and cold sprays of sunset green protect us from the outside world. My sister digs a burrow to China behind the maple tree, and I perform operas for our cats near the lettuce heads. Lauren is taking a break from her opera with her cats to listen in, so thanks, Lauren. Here in the summer on the lawn near the house on the street that memories will not allow to deteriorate, just like Mom's red hair and Dad's French vanilla coffee creamer, like the always uncracked concrete, warm to the touch. Maybe a decade later, there sits a bucket under the water drain filled with algaed water and a vagabond snail or two. Maybe that's after the cancer treatment doesn't work, after the hope for remission has fallen away, after the funeral and after the downcast looks, when time moves in the way adults always said it would. Maybe the grass has overgrown the dirt patch. The children have stopped singing to vegetables. The cicadas leave the sky to nest underneath the mournful soil. The rain cannot touch us here. It cannot hold its weight to the honeysuckle shelter of a child's dream. Yeah. And this is the second poem in the book. It really describes the last time I was with my mom. Ghost Hour, a month after my mother's death. Almost everything can be forgiven, at least. That's what I hoped for, and shatterproof glass from all the things that could harm me. Almost everything rests on her grave, or the touch of my hand on her shoulder, what I did not know would be the last, or her palm between my shoulder blades. All those childhood nights, I did not think I could dream that something besides monsters would be almost everything. And this next one is later in the book. These It's called Subliminal Space, and it's another one of Lauren's. And she defines subliminal space as a noun meaning the habitation that my mom and Nana take up in the portion of my brain that knows they are still alive somewhere and I can hear them far away. They only die in my dreams when daylight is missing and shadows subsume. Otherwise, I cannot erase them from my mind, fully present and breathing and real, almost close enough to touch. The dead are only 2 footsteps away, one between the earth and the other between the veil. And it can lift, you know, but only between 2 bottles of wine. The crevice between night and sunrise, the distance between your head and the bathwater. Miles between I love you and not today. A fissure between your high heel point and the sidewalk, where their salty voices reach your bone marrow. The dead might resurrect themselves, and that's but only long enough to put the car in reverse. The gospel truth. She should have written the whole book. That's all I can say. But it was like, you get it. It was such a pleasure of knowing Sean, your mom, and your Nana, who come from the Appalachians as well. So my mother was born under cancer, and I just always thought that that my sister was as well. And the reason my mom and I, didn't get along as well as Denise and my mom got along was because they were born under the same sign. I just never took inventory that chronicled all the sassiness and the talkbacks that might have gotten in the way of that closer relationship. Obviously, we kind of got better as we went along. This is called cancer. A bristle, sitting with your friend in chemo. No hair or left breast, brain not up for writing poems. A crab lurking on the floor of the ocean. Snap! There goes your pinky toe, or so it feels. Your sister, born under cancer, screams, wise not to dig. When you want to have fun at Myrtle Beach, you don't care. The spin of vinyl, always on my mind. Let me be there in your morning. Hot fun in the summertime. My mother, born July 16th, dead a year now, already a year. All this lapping of ocean on sand and her footprints still there. North Myrtle, she speed walked. I could never keep up. Sometimes the remission reverses some other cause than cancer. That year we made up. She felt proud, and I trusted her joy. I clutched the wheel. She trusted my driving. A memory and mother reference. I looked to the sky, needn't go beyond the constellation. My mother, Beta Cancri, the brightest star in Cancer. A foot, really, but I think they call it the eye, looking to see if I'm eating enough, sober enough, singing enough every day. Beta Cancri, 200 light years from the sun, a number. She's just past my outstretched arms, pushing towards the sun, closest when I miss her most. There's a coda that's an ode called Cancer as Astrological Coda. I put on my best mezzo-soprano for her and sing, oh to sand, oh to ocean, oh to sister and mother, oh to 6 stars and me, slam dunking. Ode again to Mom, her potato salad that garnered more fanfare than Michael Jordan ever tasted. To Mom, who thought Tree Rollins of Clemson was underrated. Oh, to crabs, to rock and roll, to Willie, Olivia, and Sly. Oh, to stars, to seashells and family stones. Oh, to Pinch and Mercy, to Emerita, unknowing and everything unfinished. I think that's the way it feels. Thank you. that loss. But I will talk about something serious now, and that would be, I grew up in this evangelical church hearing about don't commit the unpardonable sin, but nobody says what it is. So I had to figure that out on my own, and it was a painful holiday, Christmas maybe, and my cousin Barbara told her mother, my Aunt Ellen, that she thought that my mother, her Aunt Alma, made the best potato salad. And his conniption, the likes which I never hope to see again, occurred. So now I know what it is, and it's really, really a sin if you don't use Dukes in your mayonnaise. I'm just saying. This new section is part of a developing manuscript that the poem I wrote for Stephanie belongs to. And this is about, Dad, I did sneak into a place or two underage. But the Electric Warehouse, I don't think was one of them. But this is a poem about a place in my hometown called the Electric Warehouse. At the Electric Warehouse, no need for fake IDs. We came for $4 drinking drowns to figure it out while Fame and Evelyn Champagne King played. We were underage teens pressing evangelical flesh against flesh every time the DJ spun Mother's Finest, Donna Summer, and the epicenter, David Bowie. Changes, last chances, exchanges of sword drill Bibles for fire, and I Feel Love on repeat. Sundays in big church, every head bowed, every eye closed. We sang Just As I Am until the altar filled. Other nights, we could be ourselves until after closing. Unison choirs singing Young Americans, our kind of invitational hymn. In the soul-saving etch-a-sketch of light, we surrendered to instincts unpunishable by fire and maggots. Years later, we trace time hard to remember where the place used to be. East, North, and Main, close to the skating rink on White Horse Road, where a giant disco ball still shimmers. We still live with internal architectures, fighting the pillars of thou shalt not. Isn't any wonder we grieved on the asphalt when they removed us from that vinyl womb, ripped the building away from us, auctioned the lights and sound machine? So this next poem, we're getting to the end, so hang on. This is probably the best ekphrastic poem I've written, which doesn't literally describe something, but I used my reference for this poem is from photos that people took and shared of the implosion of the Lifeway building, which happened January 6, 2018, not 2021. And the Titans, this one's for you, Sean. I may not read the poem from the book for you, but Sean is I get to be step Bonnie during football season because Sean has a little time with the Titans fluctuation. So this is called Implosion of the Lifeway Tower, and it has two parts. One is called Collapse of the Titans. Whose God is football God? The Titans were almost, till the Colts determined otherwise. Would we have won if the tight end hadn't broken his ankle? Or if we'd had a bye week later in the season? Oh, all these questions and second guesses. Does extra practice really guarantee a wild card salvation? And who, pray tell, ended up with all the down markers? After a blowout loss and relegation in the standings, Sunday's wishful thoughts and future pleas that victory instead of the accustomed always next year will be salvo for season-ending injuries, losing records, our sick mega fan hearts. Or could someone at least offer honey lemon whiskey shots for tailgates or brunches at the Gerst House? All our voices to be hoarse? from yelling at the ref, screaming at the home team. Could anyone but the owners have known the Gerst house would shutter in February? All we know is we found ourselves eliminated that first weekend in January. The city's biggest action was the big blast of Lifeway. Implosion reverb. There will be kingdoms that pass, new kingdoms come perhaps, or maybe just adequate housing, prophets and poets of a bulging populace. As for this Saturday's disaster, did everything pair up and fit into a big fat room, tall as the tallest stadium and domed? A fall in the middle of a sunny morning. Did you think how much holy smoke there would be downtown on Church? How many acres of vibration? Oh, thou great presser of the demo button, contracted deity of dynamite, have you anything for all of us left behind? You, mighty developer, foretold and prepared for the chosen day, ready to reign in victory, stab the emblematic into fresh earth. Tell us, where did the cross end up? Is it as much rubble and hint of light as we? That really wasn't supposed to sound as angry. Just take on a persona. Okay, this one is called Carmen Miranda in Charge. From her head Eden grows. Taste and see the bell peppers, for they are plenty. The roses and the ivy, fruits and interface lemay. Make her deeds known, how she crinkles graves with flowers from her retired hats of rotting bananas, makes the richest bread. In her samba grooves, cultivate your own crown, and surely nothing but goodness and plenty of it will follow you all, especially the summer days. So here's back to something a little more. I've got a couple more and we're out. The first one is something I wrote. There's a place in Charleston, a block called the Four Corners of Blot. I forget what they all are. There's St. Michael's Catholic. There's the post office, federal courthouse, and the city hall, I think. But I was visiting with my cousin Barbara, I referenced, in North Charleston just less than a month before the first trial of Michael Slager, who killed Walter Scott, was supposed to start. And earlier that week, we were down at the federal courthouse, because Barbara had to turn in some papers, when they were seating the jury for Dylan Ruth's trial. And I do this thing called Music City Sings at 6 that some of you thankfully follow. Somebody does. But my dad and I sang Amazing Grace out at the cross where they have the doves that represent the beautiful souls that were unnecessarily taken. But this is called Lacrimosa, Charleston. Mother Emanuel, Walter Scott. Left alone to scream in language without vowel, only the guttural clicking of tongue against teeth, rolling R's at the backs of minds, blurring breaking news, wars, filthy lucre, shots in the backs of black men, resonant bone of hurricane and house of worship, bullets riddling Charleston, death cold and drenching, the angel oak bitter and bleeding, sorrow breaking on the October battery. This is where the broken sonnet ends, in a wreck at Four Corners of Law. And last poem, thank you. Thank you all for Linda, Michael, Scarrett Bennett for this opportunity. Thank you for all these glorious faces of people I've yet to know, but people I've known well in my writing life in Nashville, and friends, dear friends who are like family. I really do appreciate you all, and thank you for your support of other poets as well. We like to bring other people along, so thank you. This is what I call a humanist intercessory. And it basically is images and anecdotes that I gathered over a 2-week period. Humanist intercessory. Cradle the makers of funny cat videos and little girls who snuggle with elephants. Cradle the basset hound marked as bait before pit bull fight. The pit bull chained to steel and beds of concrete. Freight lines if they abbreviate warning blasts. Cradle them. Cradle sacred oratorios for matching the key of Amtrak whistles. The krautrock drone, the brainwash of factories. Cradle all of that. Cradle eyelight and blindness. The escort who considers herself above the street whore. The Stepford wives of diamonds and escalades who cannot afford diamonds and escalades without the iron-fisted mister. Cradle private school sons and daughters, dropouts and adjunct faculty on welfare. The bikini waxed and those who grow afros between their legs. The Legal Aid Society and 25-year-olds who suck the corporate teat to make partner. Cradle them. Cradle 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet. Cradle the beneficiaries of dollar bread and produce near ruin. Those who can afford to eat at the Dorchester every weekend and blow $1,000 or $2 each trip to Nordstrom's. Cradle all who believe in the one who rose after 3 days. Mardi Gras cruise and pancakes before death. Cradle atheists in a land where God parades on paper currency. Cradle the electrons of Madeleine Murray O'Hare and St. Catherine of Siena. Cradle Dana's sister, who used to call the basset hound a basket ham. Cradle the speech impediment of grandmothers returning to the toothless age, fathers who long for full use of their right arms after war and stroke, the nursing home yet to end bed sores and fire negligence, third shift nursing assistants who paint their nails and steal TVs from dementia. Cradle them, cradle their children who would not have televisions otherwise. Cradle Kathy Griffin for going too far, and artists who get away with smearing feces on crucifixes. Cradle compost, weed, and bridal bouquets, artisan cheeses and cheese whiz, Lux bed sheets, rickety clotheslines, Chanel No. 5, unscented dryer sheets, cloth diapers, and landfills clogged with Pampers. Cradle all of it. Cradle broken vows and fidelity, the blended adoptees and boys and girls who reach 18 in foster care. Cradle give a damn and tragedy in their slope and tangle before fire burns every arm bent in love. Thank you. I have books available, and is there anything else to say?
All right. Thank you so much,
bet.
Dana. Yes. And if you're here in person, that means you get to get a book tonight. And they're $15. And I know you take cash. Anything else? Venmo. And Venmo. All right. So do not leave without your book. And with that, thank you again for coming to Scarrett Bennett. And do come back again next month. Poets Corner is awesome. We might need to expand some Poets Corner life because y'all got some things to say. And this is always a joy to be here with you all. So again, thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
And thank you all for coming tonight. Now, I'm a church lady. I love a good benediction. With the grace of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, for us church folks around here, with the love of God and the communion and power of the Holy Spirit, bless each and every one of you. However you see divinity lived out, in within, without, and all around, go in peace.